Bots and automation are at the forefront of digital transformation, and that is changing the way we do business. The promise is that using automation will help businesses run more efficiently and profitably, and companies that don't make the switch risk being left behind. Today, I'm joined by Trevor Moore and Michael White, directors of IGX Solutions. They say that whether the work is being carried out by a machine or a human being, it's the process itself that's truly important, and improving the working lives of employees is as important as having the latest AI technology. But can an organization work for both people and machines? I'm Ian Hawkins, welcome to PEX Works. Trevor Moore, Michael White, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Pleased to be here.
Trevor, why do you think that all business problems come down to process?
I think it's the understanding of what the problem actually is, understanding the context of how businesses actually operate and understanding why the challenges we face come together at the point of where things are actually done. If you're trying to address any particular problem, you need to understand the context where things happen. If you can't articulate and understand the relationships between the external environment for compliance drivers or legislation, quality standards, even the customer's needs and requirements, if you can't understand how they relate to what the organization is actually doing to deliver its products or services, then how can you effectively manage the change that is required, the improvement, or the demonstrate compliance? All of these things happen through what people actually do. The problem isn't necessarily just the context of the organization. It's actually in the way in which people find ways around the problems. So what we tend to find is that you get lots of informal systems, under the counter technology, shadow technology. All of these things exist to try and help people do their jobs better. The problem is when they don't understand how they flow from an end-to-end perspective and visualizing those things.
Well, let's talk a bit about AI. How does that impact on things like compliance and risk?
That's a good question. I think not to get into a discussion around AI per se, because there are many different ways you can interpret what is AI. From our perspective, we perceive that AI is the bit that sort of differentiates the human from a robot, if you like. So for instance, if you were, well, let's say a human activity of walking across the road, you come to a pedestrian crossing, you stand there, the lights are red, you wait, the light goes green. You don't just automatically assume you can walk across the road. You will instinctively have been educated as you were growing up to make sure you look for any oncoming traffic, look for people coming the opposite direction, and then make sure it's safe before you cross. When you talk about RPA, you'll have programmed it to make a decision that the light's gone green to go, regardless of what's happening. AI is that bit of intelligence that says, well, let's just have a look to make sure everything's safe before we cross. So when we look at it from a risk and compliance perspective, AI can help an organization to become aware and build into its processes that sort of cognitive discipline of looking before you make and commit to the action.
Great. Now, Michael, RPA's lifted a whole raft of jobs out of the hands of human beings, but we're not obsolete technology yet, are we? So how does AI impact on what human beings do?
AI, RPA, human workflow, they're all actually intended to help us, to assist us. They're not actually there to replace us. There's been automation has been going on, within the human race for millennia almost. And the fact is, we're just using tools to improve what we do and how we do things. So, if you look historically, you'll find that, when first lots of machinery came along and looms and, oh my word, everybody's going to be out of a job. Well, funny enough, no. Yeah. What it does, it just improves productivity. It allows us to strip away some of the mundane jobs. It allows us to focus on more enjoyable cognitive work. And RPA is there to basically do a lot of the mundane stuff. And AI is there to supplement our decision-making capabilities. An example of that would be how AI is now changing significantly how medical diagnosis happens. And it's just speeding up and giving a better potential diagnosis.
Sure, but do you not think that with the emphasis on bots, it's given technology a bit of an image problem?
Well, I think all new technology is depending on your frame of reference, older generation tend to see it as a threat, don't understand it, it's going to take away my job, what else is it going to do? Whereas younger generations are brought up with it. So for them, it's natural. So for instance, if you think about millennials and Gen Z, they have a very high expectation on having a lot of automation, a lot of AI to help them do what they do. In fact, they're already brought up with it already, like things like Siri, etc. So I think older generations, bit of skepticism, natural, that's what happens all the time. Younger generation, the expectation is, we expect it to be in the workplace. We expect there to be high levels of automation. We expect there to be tools to help us do our job. We expect to be having a more rewarding type of job rather than performing mundane tasks.
Okay, now Trevor, you say that there's a problem with people developing their own apps. And do you think it's this rise of no code or low code that's fueling all these citizen developers?
I think what it is, it's a way of enabling those in the workplace to actually address and resolve a problem that's immediate to them. So I refer to the idea of shadow IT and people finding ways around an inefficient or inappropriate process. And what we're talking about here is providing them with a platform to enable them to actually do it in a contained environment within the context, the wider context of the overall process landscape for an organization, and making sure that there's a common interface so that when we have a frame of reference to why are we doing this, we can understand how it fits and interacts with other parts of the complete end-to-end process. So I think it's not just about the no code, it's in educating and enabling people to do the things that need to be done and giving you that sort of dynamic ability to change or improve the process as you go, but not out of the context as to the wider core process landscape.
Okay, Michael, there's an old saying, isn't there, in RPA, which is that if you automate a bad process, you're not actually doing yourself any favors. So do you think process is being neglected in this big rush to automate?
Definitely. In fact, I think process has been neglected even before the rush to automate. And certainly automating a bad process is just going to make something happen bad very more quickly, effectively. I think there's a tendency, you can see more and more information now out there in the public domain where organizations have embarked upon automation using RPA and other types of automation. RPA is not the only type of automation. And I think it's been taken very much as a wish list. So whoever's shouting loudest in the organization, we need this fixed, we need that fixed. And I don't think they've applied good methodology and good practice to actually evaluate, well, hold on, we shouldn't just automate. Is there a way that we can actually improve the process? And is this actually the most important thing that we should be doing against all the other potential areas? So I think there's been a lack of discipline, a lack of good practice approach and evaluating automation opportunities based on and thinking about tactical versus strategic. A number of organizations are, in fact, getting in a situation where the RPA landscape is effectively totally out of control. They don't actually know what they've got, or where it is, or who's controlling it. So there are a number of issues that are building up in RPA simply because haven't taken a process-centric view, haven't worked out the ROI, haven't effectively prioritized to deliver these, and haven't actually built them into a controlled environment.
Okay, so quite a wish list of things to think about. Trevor Moore, Michael White, thank you for your time.
Thank you, goodbye.
Thank you very much, Ian.